Ah! 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 No! Please, ma'am. Not the prostate. I thought it was the hemorrhoids acting up again. If you were a true fan of me, you would know that my hemorrhoids are painless. So even though I'm spewing blood everywhere, uh, they don't actually give me pain. Feeling kind of sleepy right now, feeling snoozy. Here, let me change the music. Wake up! Wake up! Ah! Ah! Uh, I don't know if it's the same artist as the Berserk opening. However, I do know I was watching a interview with him when they were making Paranoia Agent, and he was told that because this was a anime that was running in the middle of the night, when he was doing the music, he was like, okay, I have to make something to tell people to wake the fuck up. So now that is my music that I play when I want people to wake the fuck up. I mean, if you actually listen to it, it's full of all these like bird chirping noises and stuff as well, so it really is like, it's morning time, bitch. Even if it's 2 in the morning and you want to go to bed, it's time to watch anime. I don't know what's going on with the current state of Japanese midnight anime, because back when I was young, like 12 years ago or something, that was kind of the peak of anime that you were going to watch in the middle of the night, right? This is stuff like you know, Paranoia Agent. All sorts of anime that was full of like titties and shit that they couldn't play at the normal anime slots at 4 p.m. I don't know what's happened with that. So much is like streaming now. There isn't the concept of like middle of the night anime, but back in my day, people who were producing anime was like, oh, our anime, it's going to be running at, you know, 12 a.m. Well, if it's going to be running at 12 a.m., no children will be up and watching it. So that means we could just, we could have a anime based off of that popular eroge, right? And it will be fine if it's just full of sex and violence, right? Yeah, we won't get in trouble. And then the ultimate end result of that was School Days getting an anime in the middle of the night. And then in its final episode, people being like, nice boat. That's a nice boat you got there. Because even in the middle of the night, it turned out that, you know, cutting someone's jugular open with a saw and then cutting open her womb to see if there's anybody inside. Apparently that's not kosher, even if it's the middle of the night. Ohio BB-sama, are you doing Genki? Yeah, I'm pretty Genki. Senpai, look at me, senpai. I don't like Little Sisters and I don't like Kohai-chan either. I only like senpai and older sisters. Have you talked to a publisher house yet or looked for assistance? Why the fuck would I look for assistance? You mean look for jobs as an assistant? You do realize that you have to pay assistants, right? You don't hire assistants until the publisher starts giving you a big fat paycheck. Publishers specifically pay manga artists by the page a base amount, somewhere between, I don't know, 6,000 to 10,000 yen or something, specifically so they can pay their assistants. If you're drawing like 30 pages a month, then you can kind of survive on 10,000 yen per page. However, none of that money actually goes to your survival. It actually all goes to your assistance because you can't actually pay. It's not enough money, so it's a well-known phenomenon that if you are a professional mangaka, there's a high chance that once you actually get a series going, until you get the book comes out, you're actually losing money. It's a very inefficient, poorly thought out business, but the success version of it is you're unbelievably rich. Ball is too cheap for assistants at this point. We already discussed this, LMAO. Assistants only matter if you have a fucking deadline, which I clearly don't. Have you not noticed that? If you don't have a deadline, you just draw it yourself, dumbass. If anything, I need to be practicing assistant work so I can work as an assistant. Being an assistant is how you make money in the industry, you know. That's like a six-figure salary if you're being employed by someone who is already a successful mangaka and just needs lots and lots of people at all times. It's basically like the grave of everybody, all the aspiring mangaka who went out to Tokyo to publish their extremely important fantasy novel or whatever the fuck. Is you fail and then you become an assistant. And you attach yourself to somebody who sold well. If you're a female assistant, you get your womb pounded by ugly, disgusting Oji-san mangaka or something. Actually, that doesn't happen as much as you would think, because back in the day, if you're in a weekly series, then like everybody would be staying in the same room. So just for that reason alone, it wouldn't really be co-ed situation in the first place. And now a lot of the assistants are working remotely, just online, so it also doesn't happen as well. But according to the mangaka, X-Weekly series mangaka that I follow for advice on YouTube, the pattern for mangaka finding someone to marry, if you're a male mangaka, it's often a female assistant. And if it's a female mangaka, it's often their editor. Which says something about gender dynamics and relationships and stuff. Because if you think about it, the editor is somebody that like tells you what to do, and the female assistant is something where the mangaka gets to tell the assistant what to do. So this YouTuber was basically speculating that the reason why it often works out like this is because just based on like traditional gender dynamics, women don't want to have to be above the man. They want the man to be telling them to draw the fucking background or whatever. So they tend to latch on to the editor, who is the one who is like often gets to be the person who, you know, tells you what to do in the relationship. And then like vice versa for male mangaka. The male mangaka gets to keep like the authority in the relationship if he's dating his assistant or whatever. So basically what this says is that female empowerment and feminism is bullshit, because women still would prefer a man to tell them what to do in their relationship, at least in Japan. This is probably why my mother, being a rabid independent feminist, got out the fuck out of the country, because she absolutely despises people telling her what to do. But the rest of the country clearly doesn't feel that way. Now you can find your old uni kohai that secretly loves you to help you as an assistant. Bro, I don't fucking need an assistant. I haven't drawn anything yet. I may as well go and find a prostitute or something. Marrying a coworker sounds risky. They're not your coworker once you marry them, probably. At least in the manga industry. Also, everything in the manga industry is insanely risky anyway, so fucking one of your coworkers is probably the least of these people's worries. Sensei's white lie mangaka is married to Oyasumi Pum Pum mangaka. That's another thing that happens once in a while, is that mangaka marry other mangaka, but in general, mangaka is a grave for relationships, finding good relationships, because you're just at home alone most of the time, just grinding. That being said, now that I'm being forced to cook for myself and shit, I do kind of wish there was somebody that I could offload a lot of this labor on. In Japan, in Japanese, there's a term called meshitaki onaho. This will be the word for you guys to learn for today. The Japanese word for today is meshitaki onaho. This means cook, fleshlight. Except it's a even more derogatory word than cook. It's like a lesser word for cook. It's just like burn the food, cook the food, bitch, kind of thing. This is how you refer to what a man wants in life, or his wife, is that you're basically just looking for something that will cook you food, and then something you can stick your penis inside. Worst version of Bang Maid, yes. That's basically what it is. It's like Bang Maid, but I have even less respect for the job you're doing than a Bang Maid. I basically just want you to produce some kind of food, and then also allow me to stick my penis inside you. It's probably in the same zone of respect for females as a slam pig. Except this is Japan, so nobody is fat enough to be called a slam pig, so... But yes, it would be nice to have someone to offload some of this labor onto. It's not like I'm doing any particularly in-depth cooking or anything like that. However, just the act of like having to wash the dishes, that alone ends up taking up quite a bit of time. Can you elaborate? I got here. Let me put my penis inside. I was just saying that the female's job is to produce food and then also let you put your penis inside it. This is a Japanese internet terminology for when basically someone is like complaining about how he wants a female, and everyone's just pointing out that you don't actually want a relationship with a woman, you just don't want to cook and clean for yourself, you lazy little bitch, is usually the context in which this term is used. It's not really used actually in terms of like men being like, this is what I want. It's more used in terms of men pointing out that, like, to other men that that's actually what you want, because you're not actually respecting females' time and stuff like that. Shockingly, if you actually call your wife that, she might not cook food for you. Or she might start inserting antifreeze into your curry. In general, it's not a good idea to be insulting to someone who's preparing your food because they can start poisoning you slowly over time. Can you show the layer of Shadow Heart? There is no layer of Shadow Heart because I haven't started working on it yet. They want someone who will provide menial and sexual labor for no fees. Always has been. What else would you want in a wife? If you were like a Victorian housewife, you wouldn't even be providing much of the sexual labor because, or the menial labor actually, I guess, if you're upper class. You would be, your husband would be like, I will eat the food that has been produced by the maid, and now I will go and have sex with a prostitute or something. So I guess the moral of that story is being a Victorian wife is better than being a modern wife, but I guess that just means you're upper class, so that's more of a status class thing instead of a function of the times. I still just want to cuddle. I'll learn to cook someday, maybe. Any bitch that tries cuddling with me is gonna get a rude awakening when I immediately just stand up and leave, okay? She'd be a trophy wife, essentially. How many of you guys are gonna watch the Melania Jeff Bezos funded documentary that exists entirely so that Jeff Bezos can be in the good graces of the Trump administration? I'm sure that's going to be an extremely riveting story of female accomplishment. How trophy wife number 3 was able to get her man, and all the amazing work she does with, I don't know, disabled children or whatever the fuck this first lady is doing. We have to wait until Donnie dies, but because otherwise it'll be very boring. The interesting thing is that in the Trump administration, we've already gotten like all the insane reveals about his stuff while he's not only is he alive, but also while he was still running for office. We already got the hi, I'm a porn star, and Trump asked me to spank him with a Times magazine of his own photo, and also his penis is like a small, misshapen toadstool. You know, stuff that for any other politician, people would be like, well, I probably shouldn't vote for this person. But in the case of Trump, nobody, well, I guess a lot of people said that, but his base didn't come to that conclusion, so... The only reason she won't end up in the golf course like trophy wife number 1 is because he'll most likely die first. What's the point of trophy wife if it gets old? The whole point of trophy wife is you need to have a hot young female around you at all times. So you are essentially not serving your role as a trophy wife if you take the dramatic action of aging. Shame on you, female. Shame on you for actually getting old. What were you thinking? Just stop your aging permanently. That's what his daughter is for, true. Maybe it'll be sooner, seeing how everyone is turning on Trump the moment it's his turn to be thrown under the bus and all the consequences happen to him. That maybe we'll get the Trophy Wife documentary. Huh. Maybe. I don't think people will actually care about Melania very much when Trump is out of office. I think any attention that's given to Melania is just polite attention, so she's not a particularly interesting person, as is often the case with, non-intelligent people. It's important to remember that you have to deal with this segment of the population quite a bit, guys. I assume Melania is somewhere around here. She's the Russian trophy wife. Of course, she doesn't have a personality. If you're a Russian trophy wife with a personality, you probably didn't make it very far, because eventually you probably say something that pisses off your oligarch boyfriend and you get dumped in, like, a lake. It's better to just be dumb as a fucking brick as a survival strategy. Being smart and interesting is only a successful evolutionary trait if you're not being constantly murdered by your oligarch boyfriends, so. Are you telling me Melania isn't playing one of the biggest gold diggers games out there? She's just an airhead bimbo? I mean, those two aren't mutually exclusive. You can be an airheaded bimbo and also know that this guy has money and my survival strategy is attaching myself to him. That's just, like, basic female instinct. Moderately attractive female instinct is noticing at a young age that you can get shit by attaching yourself to men. And gold diggers are just the professional version of that, so. Push downstairs. I thought that the pushing downstairs is a strategy that you do when you want her to not have the child you gave her inadvertently. Do you think pushing women downstairs works as an excuse for, like, when she actually, like, dies? Because I feel like it's sort of a weak excuse to use if, like, she's just, like, straight up dead. If I'm, like, an abusive husband or something. I think it only can explain up to, like, a black eye or something. I don't know if I can be like, ah, yes, tragic how Natasha passed away. The tragic stair accident. If only those stairs hadn't taken her life. But if it's just, like, a black eye, I feel like you might be able to get away with it. Well, not get away with it. Everyone fucking knows what's going on, but, you know what I mean. Stairs are extremely versatile when it comes to causing multiple bodily trauma and possibly death. Do we have any stair death experience people in here? As Daisy said in The Great Gatsby when asked if she had a daughter, I hope she's a fool. A beautiful little fool. Yeah, I prefer extremely smart, intelligent female who will still suck my penis. That seems more satisfying. I want a nuclear physicist, attractive wife who is also extremely dedicated at the penis sucking arts. I died on the stairs once. Remember Zoro's childhood friend, guys? Who wanted to be the greatest swordswoman in the world. And the strongest enemy in One Piece, aside from local fish that ate Shank's arm, fucking took her life. The power of stairs still undefeated. Classic female moment right there. By the way, being like, I will be the strongest swordswoman on the planet, and then be the one person that dies in a story where almost nobody ever dies. Down D stairs. The stairs that will challenge the world government. You just described Bulma. Okay, but Bulma doesn't wear glasses. Also, that's not really the energy I'm going for, because Bulma shows up and she's like a giga whore. I would prefer a extremely intelligent female that, like, has more, like, pride in her being very smart. But then, when a cock is presented in front of her, she loses all of her intelligence. Whereas Bulma is probably raping poor Vegeta on the daily. I can only imagine the extremely toxic in-bed dynamics that happen between poor Vegeta and Bulma as she just absolutely sexually exploits his body on a daily basis. Keep in mind, BB has these preferences and is a 5. I'm probably higher than a 5, if we're going to be completely honest. Especially in Japan, where I'm significantly taller than most of the other men, so... You want a nerd? If we're going to be very actually honest of what I want a female that I can have, like, some amount of conversation with. So, I don't know. I assume most people in chat, just by default, are relatively intelligent in this chat, based on the type of conversation I have. But trying to speak to a person that is significantly dumber than you is very irritating. It's the Rick and Morty copy pasta, except unironically in this case. I would prefer the female to have an IQ that is within 5 points of me. You said you look like Nick Cage, so I don't know. Ladies, is that higher than a 5? It most definitely is. Look how successful Nick Cage has been in life. He's just going around stealing the Declaration of Independence or whatever. You're most likely a 7.5. You're ripped. Yeah, at this point I am ripped because my calorie intake has gone down because I'm too lazy to cook for myself. Let's look what happens if I Google search Nick Cage hot. Well, here's the images I'm getting. We definitely have to scroll all the way down to the Con Air Nick Cage. I like how this shows up in the first like 20. Oh, he was standby for mind control. This is like, this reminds me if it's like if like Asmongold was evil. This is like the evil version of Asmongold. Not in the wife beater. They're trying very hard to make him not as attractive by, you know, giving him the combo of going bald and then like having long hair and then having stubble and hair and then like the t-shirt. This is the worst type of white guy. The stepdad named Randy who beats people. Unfortunately, there is a significant amount of the female population who that's exactly what they want is the stepdad. I guess Moonstruck would probably be his peak hot phase, right? Because he was in a rom-com. There's a significant amount of the female population who is that's exactly what they're looking for, but you know. What an odd name for a t-shirt. It just provides optimum arm movement for beating your wife, you know? It reminds me of the time when the NBA, they decided that they could have like this new shirt type that had sleeves that wouldn't get in the way of like raising your arms when shooting the ball, but it's important to remember that, but they eventually just went back to wearing tank tops. See, this opening right here provides optimum arm movement for punching your Meshitaki Onaho, or wife, as we call them. It's only America would have like a fucking piece of clothing designated as the spouse abuse clothing. For some reason, there is such a noticeable trend of men beating their wives after work after removing their blazers and shirts during the 60s and 70s. The name stuck. It was just a more civilized time when America was great. We have to go back, am I right? Make America great again. Nick Cage is the least insufferable Coppola. I mean, he's not. The competition isn't great. I personally have a very specific hate boner for Sophia, both for ruining Godfather 3 and also making Lost in Translation. Like, that combo makes her very hard to beat in terms of, like, fucking insufferability of Coppola's. Gotta keep the work clothes free of blood. True. But also, if you have a wife to beat, you can also be like, make sure my white shirt is no longer stained with your blood. Also iron it. Standards for men back in the day were insanely low. Shockingly. This is what happens when women aren't allowed to enter the workforce. And they have to rely on the income of their husband just to exist. The standards for men get very, very low. They're just like, oh, he has a job and he only beats me once a week, so it's a win. It's like, oh, okay. Clean yourself up. Clean up yourself and the mess you made. Yeah, look what you've done to my knuckles. On the occasion, Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, directed by German visionary Werner Herzog, where he trips balls and has a staring contest with Iguana. I started watching Bad Lieutenant, and I didn't finish it. I didn't know that was Werner Herzog. I like when Werner Herzog explains what he's like shooting, and he's like, Nick Cage staring at this iguana is the deep existential dread that exists in all humans. We all fear the iguana. Look at the iguana. It is free. It is free from human limitations that we put on ourselves through society. The iguana, it is free to pursue its primal directive to eat and breed, to eat the vegetables. And us humans, we live in fear. Fear of death. This manifests when we look deep into the iguana's eyes. Werner Herzog is batshit as usual. Yes. Werner Herzog is a good example of like how you should keep your shit consistent so you can build a brand. Werner Herzog never really strays from his brand of just being like insanely depressing and crazy German. And I find it particularly funny that like if we're having two nature documentaries, we have either the what's his name? The black guy. The black guy that narrates everything. What's his fucking name? The black guy with freckles. And then you also have Werner. Yeah, Morgan Freeman. You either have like the comforting voice of Morgan Freeman being like, sometimes even in the darkest of hours, penguin love finds a way. And then the opposite version of energy for that, the yin to the Morgan Freeman's yang, is Werner Herzog being like, the penguin is running to the mountains to die. What pushes him toward this madness, we cannot know. Have you guys seen Grizzly Man? Because I think Grizzly Man is probably Werner Herzog's best work. I've seen a bunch of Werner Herzog stuff. But, like, the combination of the documentary subject of this guy who thinks that he can successfully live with grizzlies, and then, like, Werner Herzog's extremely dispassionate analysis of the situation, it provides just a very high level of kino, I would say. You must watch it. I liked his Nosferatu a lot. Yeah. His Nosferatu is also pretty good. Probably one of the better vampire movies out there. I like how, while Werner Herzog has a very depressing outlook on life, he doesn't necessarily force that on everybody else. So in Grizzly Man, he's like, I see the world as a place of chaos and death. I think he literally says that. And then he's like, but this man did not. He saw nature as a place in which people could be free and make friends and stuff. And I was just like, huh. He didn't say stuff, of course. Werner Herzog would never use that word. He was just, Now I want to rewatch Aguirre, Wrath of God. So was the guy in Wrath of God who makes the crazy faces, was he like actually crazy? Because I haven't seen it, but I know there's like a Werner Herzog documentary entirely on his relationship with that guy and like the crazy amount of like social tension they had when they considered themselves to be friends, but they were also like constantly getting in fights or some shit. I can't even remember. There's so much crazy energy in Wrath of God that it's kind of hard to believe that both of these people aren't crazy. Is there another narrator stereotype? I mean, those aren't really stereotypes. Those are just the most high-end options if you have like a nature documentary and you want to go in either like the uplifting, inspiring direction with Morgan Freeman, very expensive, and like the depressing, horrifying version with Werner Herzog, probably quite a bit cheaper than Morgan Freeman, but maybe still pretty expensive. Obama narrated a nature doc on Netflix, but all I could think of was Benghazi. Man, I haven't heard that term Benghazi in a long, long time. I feel like Benghazi was more of a Hillary thing than Obama, though. It didn't really stick to Obama that much. The truth is, even the Republican voters, they a good percentage of them kind of like Obama. Ultimately, it just shows the Hillary versus Trump versus Obama relationship, as well as Biden, can just be explained that like, if people just don't like you and your vibes, it doesn't really matter what you do. People fucking hate Hillary and her vibes, and nobody will ever believe that she's out in politics to care for their interests. Biden has no vibes. He's about as interesting as a bucket of rocks. Whereas Trump, even if he's like, you know, stomping on a baby's head, the people who likes his vibes still like him. It's kind of shocking that actually Hillary was even able to win her Democratic primaries to become New York Senator or something, but I guess that's just like the residual riz of Bill rubbing off on her for many, many years. I mean, you want somebody who is successful because of his vibes. Nobody was more successful than Bill in terms of just like people wanted to root for him. Extremely powerful vibes president right there. Biden was supposed to be the nonpartisan Democrat, i.e. a Zionist anyway. Biden was just supposed to be not Trump. That's it. It was just supposed to be like a continuation. Biden was another example of, similar to Hillary, just cruising on Bill's vibes. He was just cruising on Obama's vibes. It's kind of that simple. And people are just like, well, this guy's boring, but whatever. Her fake, obvious forced smile was bad too. Nobody who is capable of reading human emotions and human behavior could actually believe that Hillary was out there like fighting for them and their best interests. Her political ambition was just incredibly transparent, and you know, people don't like shrill females in the first place, but Hillary was just like a really bad combination of stuff. America will never stop supporting Israel like a mom bringing her kid jail commissary allowance. The time in which America stops supporting Israel, it will have to be entirely after like all the boomers are dead and gone, and maybe even after Gen X is gone. There has to be like a significant demographic shift in the voting populace before America stops supporting Israel. The boomers just have been trained throughout their life to take the concept of supporting Israel automatically for granted, and that's not even going into all like the financial support that the Israeli lobbies give to their votings, you know, the voting not the voting bases, the politicians. So if American society can't even set up a system in which corporations aren't allowed to rape us up the ass with profits and stuff like that, I assume it won't ever be able to set up a system in which Israeli lobbyists will be able to, you know, send $1 trillion to every single politician. Ball, people are retarded. People vote on emotion, not logic. Not me. I don't vote at all because there's 30 different political parties in Japan, and they're all like vaguely corrupt, so it's unclear who I should vote for. On the other hand, if you voted on emotion that Hillary was not going to be a particularly helpful president for you, the common man, it's not like you were wrong, right? I don't think there was like some glorious future in which Hillary was president that we all missed out on. Imagine the Lisa Frank utopia we'll have when the last boomer crosses the Rainbow Bridge. Yeah, it's going to be a while, though. I would have voted for Kanye in 2016, but I disagreed with his approach to the economy. Of course, it's emotion. Did Kanye actually run at any point? I can't remember. Or is he just, like, memeing? Did he actually register? Wasn't, like, Kanye's run being, like, he's claiming he's running, but, like, he's missed all the deadlines for, submitting the paperwork in Iowa and stuff? Nothing happens, everything stays the same. Actually, a lot of shit has happened. Anybody who's complaining about how nothing happens in the modern day and age doesn't know what it was like growing up in the 90s, like pre-September 11th, where literally shit did not happen. Without the internet and nothing was happening, you literally would have days in which, like, the primary news was like, Britney Spears, is she too sexy? And that was like the fucking headline. Modern day young people have no idea how much happening is happening all the time compared to my childhood when the happenings really did not happen. おはようございます。毎朝出勤前に動画を見ています。かけながら応援しています。ありがとうございます。Oh, we actually have real Japanese person. これはね、自分がね、無職だから朝普通にかけるんですけど。 これは前のアメリカ、日本に移住する前のアメリカのスケジュールをそのまま使ってる感じですね。Respond to your Japanese viewer, yes. Actual Japanese viewer is very, very precious, unlike all of you Americans who are typing fake Japanese in chat. You asked ChatGPT to produce Japanese script for you. Holy shit, he code switched? Yes. I can speak Japanese. Half だからね。Half. We are disposable, chat. It's very hard to actually get Japanese chat people to say something interesting, though, because Japanese have been trained to be polite through many years of schooling and stuff, so... If I had a primarily Japanese chat, unless I had cultivated like a very rude fan base, which I probably would, I wouldn't have much to say. One Japanese viewer equals 15 Western viewers. Even if I had Japanese viewers, they wouldn't type anything, so it would be difficult to actually have the stream going. Oh my god, the fucking pigeons. I'm on the 16th floor, and yet the pigeons are just like... They're just fluttering outside my fucking window. What do they want? What is it with pigeons? Todemo irasto mo nihongo ga ojouzu desu. ハーフだから、一応小学校と高校が日本だったからね。あと大学も1学期だけ上智あたりに行ってた。Alright, let's draw Shadow Heart. Timeout Constrictor. Where the fuck is Constrictor? Oh wait, he isn't here. I guess I can't time him out. There was shit happening in the 90s, but it didn't affect the USA. I mean, there was some shit. What was the shit going down in the 90s that didn't really affect the USA, though? I mean, the US was like in its... We're gonna inject ourselves into the shit happening period, right? You're a Hitchcock heroine, BB-chan. What does it mean to be a Hitchcock heroine? Does that mean that I would be stealing a large briefcase of money and checking into a motel and then get stabbed or something? '97 Asia financial crisis. You were there for it? Okay, so there was the Japanese economic bubble ending, but that wasn't really a happening. It happened, it didn't, like, it wasn't a fucking crash, right? It happened relatively slowly over a long period of time. It's not like, oh shit, it's happening, boys. Think of all the happenings we've had just in, like, this month alone. We had massive Iranian protests to the point that it seemed like the Iranian regime might fall. We have massive protests in Minneapolis with, like, you know, murder being done. It seems like America is also falling into fascism. We have Trump trying to blow up NATO because he read somewhere that Greenland is big and cool, but he also can't even keep track of whether he's talking about Greenland or Iceland. Think of all the shit that's happening just in the political arena. Green and purple ketchup, what a time. The Zoomers will never understand how exciting it was when we got our blue M&M for the first time. It was big news when you were a kid in the 90s, and suddenly there was a new M&M color that was like, holy shit, what's happening to my world? Not the blue M&M, that's the most delicious color of all. In the 90s we had a lot of blue food when we realized that blue tasted better. So we had blue raspberry flavored candy and Slurpees and blue M&Ms and stuff. Being Bosnian in the 90s sucked. I mean, sure, but also America still was like in its expansionist phase, so they were like, we should stop this genocide. Whereas if you're like, I don't know, in Myanmar or whatever, if you're a Rohingya or African in modern day and age, and like you have genocide number 35, Americans are just like, yeah, I don't feel like it. Do we really have to worry about it? I don't want to intervene in this genocide. I made so many friends at Playland. It was cute. One of the McDonald's in my area when I was still in America still had its, what do you call it, the play section. I didn't know they still had it, but yeah, I went there and it was like a 4-story play area and nobody was in it because everyone was just going through the drive-through. And I was just like, you know what? Local McDonald's franchise, you keep that. You keep the play area so kids can go and have warm memories at this local fast food restaurant where they were playing in the McDonald's play area so they can always associate this extremely bad junk food with their warm childhood memories. Lots of things were happening, just not our problem yet. I mean, in terms of like shit happening, also, have you guys been following this? Because it's not in like the official news, but there's like possibly a, not necessarily civil war, but like a standoff going on in China right now between Xi Jinping and the military. Like New York Times and like the official news sources can't report on this because it's all rumors. But like everything that comes out of China has to be rumors anyways, right? Because they're not going to have like an official announcement. Haven't heard. So for people who have access to the Chinese internet and are watching like the Chinese, like just like the Soviet Union, if you have like a communist regime, you have to basically read the tea leaves on everything. And the tea leaves reading of the current state of China is that Xi Jinping, a lot of his military generals were being, the people that were loyal to Xi Jinping were getting purged, which is why like the current number of Chinese active army generals is like 5 people or something when it should be like 40, because both Xi Jinping was like purging the generals that weren't loyal to him, and then like the other military commanders were then purging Xi Jinping's loyalists in turn. So they're like the entire military brass is like just hollowed out right now. And then Xi Jinping tried to, well, he didn't try to, he officially announced that I forgot the names of the guys, but like 2 of his main military rivals were like being arrested for corruption. And now there's a lot of signs that he actually doesn't have these generals under his control, and they might be still like in the wild with their own military support and shit like that. And Beijing and stuff seem to have been under some amount of like military lockdown in the past few like days and stuff. More senseless death. It's actually not senseless death because it's political power structures inside a communist party regime, which is not senseless at all. It's actually highly calculated political warfare that's going on inside China. We just don't get to see it. But we get to see it a lot more than USSR era, because we have all these like people with phones on the ground who can like show us a wide variety of tea leaf signs. People are comparing him to Mao, but the current state of the thing is that maybe he doesn't have we're so used to like guys like Stalin and Mao having like extremely strong party control. I think we were all assuming that Xi Jinping had that level of party control, and if he just said that like these military generals were out, they were actually out. But what's news is that that might actually not be the case, and in fact, they might not be out, and Xi Jinping might be losing his grip on the military. This is always the difficulty with being a political figure, because at the end of the day, you have to consolidate power of the military. Return to the Warring State period. I want to serve someone with a Riz on the level of Nobunaga Oda. Nobunaga was kind of a one of one, so I don't think that's going to happen. If there was a bet of China or USA go to Civil War era, who you bet who would go on first? China, definitely. Because the Chinese economic situation is, like, insanely bad. You might be like, what about American economic situation? It's also horrible, but despite what Americans complain about not being able to pay rent and pay for food, the Americans who actually can't pay for food are actually, like, using all of their money to DoorDash $30 McDonald's meals, so they're not like, they can't literally not pay for food, whereas when Chinese people say they can't pay for food, they literally can't pay for food. So that's when you get uprisings and revolution and stuff. Americans have guns and no plans to use them for insurrection. Despite all the bitching and complaining Americans do, American life is still relatively cushy at the end of the day. China is literally wasting money on empty buildings that no one will live in. They're actually out of that phase right now. They're done wasting the money on empty buildings because that bubble popped. And now they've gotten into the phase where the local governments have so little money that they're trying to raise money by like applying extremely high fines to people and stuff. Like, apparently on social media, Chinese were posting like the Shanghai government was sending fines to pregnant woman because, or maybe, I think it was like something like the pregnant woman got financial support for having children from the local government, and then the local government was like, we overpaid you, we want a refund for that money. And this is Shanghai, which is supposed to be one of the most affluent and successful economies in China. So if that's happening in Shanghai, that means it's like way worse in other local areas. So yeah, the Chinese local governments, which were entirely reliant on renting out land to people to make money, are in deep, deep shit right now. Had to explain to a friend here that you can't eat dried beans raw. We had to DoorDash. You just need the canned beans, bro. The country with the biggest shot at armed resurrection is the least likely to do so. Americans claim that they own guns. Let me rephrase that. Republicans claim they own guns to stop the tyranny of the government. But what they actually mean is they own guns because they think they're cool. And when they say they're protesting the tyranny of the government, they mean the government is asking them to wear a mask so they don't spread an extremely infectious, deadly disease. And then they freak the fuck out because, you know, what happened to American freedom. Americans are the most coddled human beings on the fucking planet. You can eat them raw? True. She thought the dried ones were cuter. I don't know. We're not friends for her Michelin level skills. Can't you just, like, boil them or something. They put LEDs everywhere to make their country look high-tech, just like my gaming PC. I survived 2008. It was really hard. I graduated in 2009, so yeah, it wasn't great, but soak and boil. Just buy the canned beans. It's so fucking cheap. Let's see. Soy point meme. Never forget. Never forget that the soy point meme came from Beyond Fried Chicken. Did you guys ever eat the Beyond food? Or Impossible meats and stuff? That chicken looks good. It's not chicken. It's plant. Impossible meats stock. I tried it once. Impossible Foods. Oh, it's not publicly traded on any stock exchange as of early 2026. What was the other vegetarian? I thought there was at least one of these like new age vegetarian companies which stock just climbed insanely high because people are like, due to global warming, people are gonna stop eating real animal meat. And it turned out nobody gave a fuck about global warming. They still wanted to eat their cows. And then the stock has fucking plunged again. Are these meat replacement cheap? No, they're not. They're more expensive than if you had normal meat. Thus, kind of defeating the purpose. You'd have to, like, truly believe in, like, the political cause behind it. If you actually want to eat the Impossible Burgers and stuff. It turns out people don't care. Who could have foreseen it? The people who do care are capable of just eating like normal beans and stuff instead of like beans chemically altered to behave like steak. Paying premium for healthy, yes. Especially when you can get an extremely cheap, actually healthy version by actually just eating the plant. Instead of eating like the weird modified bean substance meat-like object, you could just eat like normal beans and then save yourself $10 and also not eat like insane amounts of sodium. Just eat edamame, steamed edamame. Well, I'm putting salt on my edamame. I don't give a fuck. No excess sodium. Yeah, but you throw a bunch of salt on the outside and then you like kind of chew on the skin of the edamame and kind of suck on the salt when you eat the beans. That's why it's a bar food, because they add the extra salt. Japanese diet is not good when it comes to being worried about salt. They eat a lot of salt. They eat soy sauce, just like salt in general. Japanese food is one of the healthiest diets out there, except for the salt and the white rice. So the pro tip if you want to eat healthy is eat Japanese diet that's high in vegetables and fish and stuff, but then like just cut the salt and then change the white rice to brown rice. So that's what I'm doing right now. Cooking food is healthier in general? Yeah, no shit. Yeah, seriously, if you're not cooking your own food, you're just consuming like insane amounts of whatever cheap ass additives the company has to put in your food to make it taste better. So it's just like by default, your food's gonna probably be worse for you. The best way to make food taste better is just to put a bunch of like salt and oil in it. So they're just gonna be like, how will we improve the flavor of this? What if we put in some butter? Ramen convo last stream kind of stayed with me. Never drink the broth. You can probably get away for it with it if you're relatively young. But when you're above like 35, it's time to stop drinking the ramen broth. Sugar, fat, and salt mentioned. Delicious. Just cook everything in butter, guys. I'm never eating ramen again. Well, if you're talking about like the shitty American ramen packs, which is what we used to call ramen before the Japanese food craze hit stuff, you really shouldn't eat that shit because it's just like, it's just a bunch of meaningless carbohydrates flavored with MSG, but if we're talking about like real ramen with proper broth and stuff, it has like nutrients and fiber and shit like that as well, but it just has a lot of sodium and fat as well. My trick is to fluctuate between eating very healthy and very unhealthy. Yeah, I do that too. Like when I go ham on like I'm just gonna eat unhealthy shit, I really do just eat a lot of unhealthy shit. And then I can feel it in my body. Like I can feel the hypertension that's being caused by like the combination of high amounts of sodium and fat and sugar and stuff. And I can tell my body is like, please stop doing that. So I stop doing it. I remember the horrible trend of kids eating Maruchan raw on the playground shutters. It's like they knew about Baby Star Ramen even before they knew about it. You guys know about Baby Star Ramen? Baby Star Ramen. It's this thing. Oh, you can buy it at Walmart? Nice. Crispy ramen stack. Artificial chicken flavor. I'm glad that the Walmart or the American packaging forced them to add the artificial to it because there ain't no fucking chicken in this thing. In Japanese, they're just allowed to call it chicken flavor. But I guess the American packaging, they're not allowed to call it chicken because there isn't a single drop of chicken in this fucking package. But it's just like dry ass ramen. I don't know. It's cooked in a way that it's edible. You just like crunch on it. It's really good. It's delicious MSG flavoring. It's fried and covered in seasoning. This is the secret, the deliciousness of Japanese food is seasoning, i.e. MSG. Just cover everything in MSG. Mission accomplished. I'm trying to buy food from supermarkets around here, and literally everything, if you look at the ingredients, it says amino acids. When it says amino acids in Japanese, what they mean is MSG. My mother is overly sensitive to MSG, so she basically was like anti-MSG my entire life, but I'm not particularly that worried about health effects of MSG. We've had it around for long enough that I think we would know that if it was like seriously bad for you. So it becomes more of a question of is there's so much MSG in it that it, like, starts to fuck with your taste. And, like, I do find it unpleasant when I eat shit that is, like, absolutely covered in MSG. But, if it's a small amount of MSG, it doesn't bother me that much. That's because Japan is obsessed with umami. Japanese cooking culture has become so, just like everywhere, all these new terms come in: bento, sushi, but the biggest one, of course, is umami. Now, if you watch basically any cooking show, every cook says that umami is like the seventh flavor or some shit like that. It's just widely accepted at this point that it's a flavor. You give a lesser fuck about the MSG stuff? Yeah, I don't think it's like immediately gonna cause cancer. It's just like you can taste it if there's too much of it. My mother claimed that it made her lips peel. She was hypersensitive to it, but it's not that crazy for me. But if I get like a soup, for example, it will often have a shit ton of MSG in it, and then you can really kind of like it might be like, man, this is just too much. If it's just like a very small amount, it's not enough to like truly bother me. It's been around since like what, 1910s or something, so it's been like almost 100 years of using MSG in like Asian food, so I wouldn't be too worried about the health effects. It's still salt though. I wonder if we have it here as a table salt is actually sodium chloride or monosodium glutamate. So in Japan, it was for the longest time called Ajinomoto, which was like an actual company. I'll show you and you could get just like large bottles of it. Ajinomoto. It's a company, food and biotechnological company. You love it when your food is also a biotechnological company. But yeah, it has this, happy little panda face. But it's just like a fucking salt shaker. It's like when you want salt, but you want like umami salt. And you can buy it in these giant fucking bags and shit. Oh god, you're right. They do have like a shit ton of flavors. I have one in my pantry. So dashi and stuff like this. I'm sure this is also full of MSG. The thing is that if like you actually use natural ingredients, you can get that umami flavoring just fine without, relying on cheaper chemical alternatives. Like, it's just naturally included in stuff like miso and shit. And it's not like miso is expensive. I'm currently eating organic, the local organic brand, grocery brand nori when I put on everything, and it doesn't use MSG on its the seaweed flavoring, but it's just like insane amounts of umami just by the standard like fish extract or whatever that they're putting on it. Miso is also easy to make. I'm not gonna spend time making miso, bro. Miso is cheap as fuck at local Japanese grocers, so I don't need to go out of my way. I'll just buy it like a normal human. Ajinomoto, the flavor of moto. Moto means like base. So it's like the basis of all flavoring. It's quite a claim to make. It's like you won't have flavor unless you have our thing, but you know. It's like yogurt, just need a small amount to start. If you like fermented food so much, you must eat the fermented sock. My delicious botulism sock. Will Baal learn to cook, or will he finally find a maid wife? Find out on the next episode of DBZ. I do cook in that I just do very easy things. You can eat healthy with the bare minimum of cooking, especially in Japan, because you can get your protein in the form of natto and then like 1 egg a day, and then you just like get a salmon fillet from the local supermarket and then like saute that, and that's about it. Cooking is super easy in Japan. Don't let those housewives fool you. The supermarket does like 80% of the shit for you. If you go to any supermarket, they already have like pre-cut foods, whether it's like pre-cut fish or meats or like pre-cut vegetables. And like anybody who's cooked knows, like if you're buying shit at an American supermarket, what ends up being like time consuming and annoying is the process of like they give you like a large chunk of stew meat, but like the stew meat is already cut, but like each of the pieces is too large, so you spend an extra like 20 minutes like cutting the pieces into smaller cubes or shit like that, and now your hands are covered in like cow blood and stuff, and it's not much fun. Whereas in Japan, like everything is already cut to the correct size in the supermarket. You just peel back the plastic coating and then you just cook it. Also, for American meats, they like do a really bad job of packaging it, so there's always like some old congealed black blood still in the packaging, and if you don't wash that off before you cook the meat, you can get like some old blood flavor. Whereas the Japanese supermarket meat is like perfectly clean. Like there isn't any extra blood in the packaging at all. So you literally just you just peel back the packaging and you just cook it like that, and that's it. It's just like open, throw it on the frying pan, done. It's super easy. It's just way easier to cook in Japan than it is in America. So if my wife says she's too tired to cook, I'm free to backhand her? No. In the modern American wife, if she says she's too tired to cook, you must respect her opinion as a female and then order $30 DoorDash. It's the only way. You take her out or order food. The reason why I wouldn't have a wife is my honest response to that situation would probably be like, okay, you're too tired to cook food? That's fine. Instead, we will open this can of beans. Tonight's dinner is this beans and rice. And then she'd be like, no, I want to order DoorDash. And you'd be like, no, DoorDash is too expensive. This can of beans is $1.25. I got it on sale, so it's actually $1. We will eat this can of beans together, and then she leaves me because she doesn't want to just eat beans and rice. Instead, she probably calls up Sweet Greens or whatever and orders like a $50 dinner, like salmon salad. And then I divorce her ass. That's basically how it works. I have to ask my manslave to bring me roasted chicken to add to my salad. That's a good way to add easy protein. It's just like put chicken breast on literally everything. Also, I was reading the New York Times comments section on like eating healthy, and one person was like, to get extra protein, I just put like Greek yogurt on everything, and I was like, that's an idea. I already eat a lot of yogurt, but what if I replace my normal yogurt with Greek yogurt, which is like 5 times more protein? That's an easy way to get to the protein recommendations on a daily basis. Because based on my age, I'm supposed to be eating like more than 100 grams of protein per day. And if you're not like pulling out a big fat steak, that can actually be slightly difficult. But if I just like add an extra 10 grams of protein to every meal by just like adding shit tons of Greek yogurt, I think it makes it much easier. Also cannibalism, that's also a good way to add protein. Just eat human beings. Hold on, wait a second. I have to ask Grok about this. Grok, would human flesh cannibalism count as eating red meat? Yes, human flesh would count as red meat, both biologically and in every practical nutritional sense. Red meat is conventionally defined as meat that contains higher levels of myoglobin, the protein that gives meat its red color when raw and carries oxygen in muscle tissue. The main categories are red meat, beef, pork, lamb, goat, venison, horse, bison. White meat, mostly poultry, chicken and turkey, rabbit, and some fish. Huh. Human skeletal muscle tissue has myoglobin concentrations very similar to pork or veal, actually a bit higher than pork in most analyses that have been done. Nutritionally and chemically, a butcher or a food scientist would classify human muscle tissue as red meat. Interesting. Taxonomically and culinarily, human flesh lands squarely in the red meat category, closer to pork or young beef than to chicken. So, I've been told that you should keep your red meat consumption to like once or twice per week, so maybe for health reasons we probably shouldn't eat large amounts of human flesh. Just an idea. Hannibal Lecter arc begins. I don't think he was eating as much of the meat. I think he was eating a lot more of the organs, which is probably even more of a problem. Wasn't he eating like a guy's brain at some point? I believe that part of the reasons why cannibalism is not recommended was because the cannibals that partake in it would ritually eat like organs, like part of the nervous system, like the brain and stuff, to get the power, and that was like the spinal fluids and stuff that they were eating was causing health issues. But we already just did a internet AI search regarding this, um, and Grok was like, "Yeah, it's okay to eat it as long as you're not eating the brain and stuff. If you're just eating the muscles, so don't eat organs like Hannibal Lecter. You should keep it to the human flesh, like the the thighs and stuff. Specifically, rotten brain. Yeah, guys, don't eat the brains. In general, you shouldn't be eating the brains of like cows or animals in general. I guess you can eat like fish brains because people have been eating fish heads and it's been fine. But like mad cow disease and stuff, that shit happens, right? So Does eating ass also count? I don't think eating ass contains any calories and stuff. You're not actually eating anything. I'm learning so much. Hold on. I have to ask Grok what people taste like. Are there records of what human flesh tastes like? These descriptions are subjective, often influenced by preparation methods, roasting, stewing, raw, the individual's diet, health, cooking style, and psychological context. No large-scale scientific taste tests exist for obvious ethical and legal reasons. Boo. The most common comparisons are familiar meats, though accounts vary. Pork, the most frequent modern and some historical comparison, often described as similar, but stronger, more bitter, or slightly sweeter. Armin Meuys, the German cannibal, 2001 case, said in prison interviews, "The flesh tastes like pork, a bit more bitter, stronger. It tastes quite good." Polynesian Melanesian cannibals reportedly called human flesh long pig because of the resemblance to pork. African and Indonesian accounts compared barbecued portions to chicken or pork-like flavors. 20th century Western accounts compared it to veal. Journalist William Seabrook in 1931 book Jungle Ways described it as like good, fully developed veal, not young but not yet beef, mild with no sharply distinct flavor like game or pork. This is sounding really good, guys. Are we sure we don't want to eat human beings? Issei Sagawa, Japanese cannibal, 1981 case, said parts, buttocks, were tender and soft like raw tuna, melting in the mouth. See, that's just like typical Japanese shit. Japanese always compare everything to like tuna. And they always are like about like the softness of the flesh. Japan needs to stop obsessing so much over whether the meat is like tender enough. Jeffrey Dahmer reportedly likened some portions to filet mignon. So, it generally sounds like it tastes pretty fucking good. Look for the foot taco guy. We already were talking about the foot lettuce Burger King guy the other day. I assume this is the guy was like eating someone's foot in taco form instead of putting his feet inside tacos. Those are two different things.